Now, they have passed the first hurdle. Now, opponents of Venezuela's president are facing a race against time to carry out a second petition on recalling Nicolas Maduro from office. The opposition coalition now has to secure the signatures of at least 20% of the country's registered voters to force a recall election. That's equivalent to 4 million people, and they have just 3 days to do it. Venezuela is facing an economic crisis, and opinion polls suggest that a large majority of voters want Nicolas Maduro gone. The government, meanwhile, has told voters that the opposition is lying to them. Well, let's look closer at the situation in Venezuela. I'm joined now by international analyst Marco Vincenzino, who's director of the Global Strategy Project. Thanks very much for being with us. Now, do you think that it's likely the opposition will succeed in forcing this recall election?
I think the government will delay and stonewall the process whereby it'll go past July 10th of 2017. Once it goes past that specific date, what happens is that even if there is a recall, like a recollection, there's a recall after January 10th of 2017, what happens is that if there is a recall and the recall would succeed, the vice president automatically becomes president, whereby the Chavistas remain in power. If it's done before, technically, according to the Constitution, if it's done before January 10th, 2017, and the president is voted out in the recall referendum, what happens is it will spark a general election. So the current regime is aware of this, hence the stonewalling and trying to push the process into 2017, whereby if eventually the decision is made within the regime itself that Maduro shouldn't last, because there are already many in the Chavista movement that are not particularly great, that they don't like Maduro much at all, but they don't want to give up power. So as a result, they're looking to delay it in 2017, see how things go, and if anything, would be the vice president that takes over.
All right, we're having a couple of technical issues. We had a little bit of trouble hearing you there, but I'd just like to ask you one more question. Hopefully the line will hold. We do hear a lot about the anger against Nicolas Maduro, but there has been a lot of support traditionally in Venezuela for him, for his party and movement at least. How strong would you say that support is at this point, considering the economic crisis?
Waning significantly. And those within the Chavista movement are very much aware of the fact of his lowering numbers, high level of unpopularity. But what they're trying to do is strike a balance, meaning whereby if they can delay the process of the recall referendum as much as possible, they can, if the president is removed, they themselves will be able to at least have one of their own, technically the vice president. So if the referendum process is pushed beyond January 10th, 2017, they'll at least be guaranteed the fact that one of their own, i.e. the current vice president, would become president.
And actually, we can hear you pretty well right now, so I'm going to try another question. What do you think would need to happen in Venezuela to turn the economic crisis around, whoever happens to be in power? What does the country need?
This whole thing, it will not occur overnight. To undo what's been done will require several years. What they can try to do is diffuse the situation, whereby lifting restrictions, opening up the economy more, lifting and having an open election, whereby a real election of a real participation. In order to diffuse the situation, it'll take time, but certain immediate measures can be taken. But the current regime is very reluctant in doing so. And the only way I think the current regime will be actually forced to make a move against the current president is if the current situation spins out of control to the point where there's popular uprising, riots, which already been taking place, but to the point of the breakdown of social order. Mm-hmm. That's whereby the regime, and particularly the military, will have to play a key role in making the necessary changes to try to diffuse the uncertainty, diffuse the instability, and to try to stabilize the status quo. Once again, this is a very, very difficult situation. Ordinary people are not able to get access to basic goods. That obviously has to change.
Certainly is a very unstable situation. Thanks very much for giving us your point of view. Marco Vincenzino, Director of the Global Strategy Project, joining us there.